Community Conversations is a space that fosters conversation around topics important to us, with the purpose of creating an educational opportunity to teach, learn, work, and grow together. With your host, Ina.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Community Conversations, a space where we talk about topics that are important to us. Last conversation was about sharing our story, and we thought that today's conversation would be a continuation of that. So today's topic is sharing your story feeding ableism? That is the topic. And to start us off is Rolling Diva, that is going to explain what ableism is.
Yes. Well, ableism is a term that implies derogatory attitudes towards people with disabilities. An ableist approach defines people with disabilities as their disability and values their capacity as lower. I found another interesting word that is disableism, which basically means a direct discrimination against people with disabilities. Yes. Any questions?
No, it was clear and concise. Yeah. Before we dive into today's questions, I want to take another moment to say that everything shared here from us is our own stories, our own opinions. So if you listening and seeing this is of another opinion, you're welcome to share in the comments below. We are in no way I don't know, higher in hierarchy than anyone else. So please share your thoughts and ideas. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any future conversations. And if you haven't checked our previous conversations, you know where to find them. So for today's topic on ableism, my first question was how can we move towards anti-ableism? Anyone?
So I grew up with this saying, knowledge is power. And I think it's interesting, even within our community of spina bifida and hydrocephalus, but in the community of disability, period, and especially as a person that lives with hydrocephalus who is able-bodied, there are certainly things that I have learned through friends like all of you, and other friends within our spina bifida and or hydrocephalus community as well, who do use a wheelchair or do use mobility devices, and think about things differently than I would as an able-bodied person. It's interesting because I mean, learning those things is interesting, but then for me, I know I question myself all the time. What are you doing now? It's great that you know about these things, Danny. What are you doing now to change it? What are you doing now to not just like know about it and like be sympathetic or whatever? What are you doing to be more empathetic towards somebody else's experience and be a louder voice, specifically as an able-bodied person, to more loudly address these things? As an entertainer, I know I learned through a couple awkward, and there's been a couple of times where, say, it hasn't happened in a long time because I do a lot more research and a lot more. I'm a lot more thorough when I'm like, say, booking a gig or whatnot. But I remember a gig that I was booked to play in Toronto in a place called Kensington Market, and a friend from our spina bifida and hydrocephalus community here messaged me to say, I'd love to go to the gig, but the venue's not accessible. And I was gutted. I was so gutted, and I actually ended up canceling the gig. And my friend had booked it, and I just said, like, listen, I'm so sorry, but I really just don't want to as much as it pains me and crushes me to like not perform, and not play a gig. I can't just continue to know these things and not take some sort of stand in terms of not playing at that venue, and so like little things like that, I think anyways, that for me is trying to be more anti-ableism in terms of taking the knowledge that I've got and not just like knowing it, but act on it. Act on helping people understand the things that they maybe don't know. The things that they don't know because they're maybe able-bodied and they also don't think about these things every day, all the time, for their entire life. And so trying to help shed perspective, and then especially now through this lens of A Song of City, trying to have conversations with different businesses that maybe aren't as accessible as they could be, and also shed light on why creating a more accessible environment is not only like a cool thing to do, but it's also great for business. Like how many people can't go support your business if your business isn't accessible? You might have a lot of people that want to go there, but they simply can't go there because your business is not accessible. So it's not only like a cool thing, but it's also great for business. So trying to like find ways to, I guess, really lean into that educational side of things, and be anti-ableist through your knowledge, and figuring out how you can actually take a stand to not just know about it, but to say this is an issue and this is what needs to change. And until that changes, I might not be around. I might not show up. I might not be around. So actually, like, taking action on it, and say, some of those gigs that I canceled years ago, in retrospect, maybe nobody knew about it, but it's important to even I know within our community, show that allyship to our community. Like how for me, I start to reflect on how fake does it start to look if like I want to do all these things through a Song of City or with my friends who also identify with our SB&H community, but then I'm also just continuously going to book gigs that, you know, my friends can't show up at. It starts to become a little bit unauthentic. Start to lose your integrity and all of those things as well. So I don't, yeah. That educational piece I think is so important. But then once you know something, figure out how you can take a stand and actually be anti. And that doesn't need to be like an aggressively like. It doesn't need to be in an aggressive way. It doesn't need to, and I think I'm still navigating that. You know, I know personally when I was learning things, I would rage. I would rage, and if somebody said something that was wrong, I would just be like, no, be quiet. That's not right. And I'm going to tell you why. So I'm trying personally still, I think, and this is I think a skill I'm still trying to get better at, trying to find ways to address a serious conversation that keeps a conversation going so that you're not closing the door on that person maybe coming around and learning like, oh, okay, Danny, I get you now. I didn't get it before. I didn't get it, but I get it now. Okay, I'm gonna change. And trying to find that happy medium between, okay, I'm really passionate about this. I want things to change, but is my rage really the best thing to drive that change? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Especially if we're trying to create conversations like in this space to, you know, to actually welcome people in to say, you know, as you said, Ina, like you might not see it the exact same way, but let's talk about it. And let's hear each other. And then we'll try and come to some sort of resolution through the lens of what is fact. Because it is hard to have an opinion about what is a factual issue in the world. So it you know, anyways, that's my piece. Education, and then figuring out how to take action to actually not just live with this new knowledge, but actually be, you know, driving change that breaks down this ableism, this issue of ableism that some people a lot of the time don't even have a clue about. But yeah.
Speaking of finding different ways and to not just be all or nothing. I was wondering, did you contact the restaurants to say, is there a way to I don't know, get
Yes.
Get around is not maybe the correct word, but help.
100%. 100%. And I that is definitely, especially today, that's one of the conversations I have with people. And I still continue to have. There's been a couple that have just, their old buildings, super high, steep staircase. There's no way. There's just no way. And so in that case, I will just, as politely as I can, just say I'm really, really sorry, but I just can't. I'm so sorry. I just can't. But then if a venue can adapt, if they can be adaptive and figure it out, and they're willing and they're open to the conversation, then cool, let's go. You're trying. We can always be better regardless of who we are or what we're doing. You're trying, you're open to it, you're cool. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. That's awesome. It'd be awesome if you were always accessible, but let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Alexis and Eva, do you have any?
Yeah. Well, I'll go, but I'm going to do a couple of stories because Danny probably practically took everything I was going to say.
Oh,
Thanks,
no.
Danny.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's we just think alike. Anyway.
Repetition is good. So
yeah.
Never let me talk first.
Oh, stop. The education part. Sometimes I even realize like I'm teaching people, but not even realizing, because I still remember this to this day. In college, they paired me with an able-bodied person just in case, which was fine. And she said to me, I never realized what you had to go through until I lived with you. I'm like, look, if you don't know somebody in a wheelchair, you don't know, and that's okay. Do you know what I'm saying? So if they don't experience it, how do they know, right? And I mean, I welcome people to ask me questions. I don't necessarily answer them all the time because some are just a bit too personal, but I'm just like, no. But ask me questions. If I want to answer you, okay. And if I don't, okay too. But the standing up for yourself piece, I was at a store in the mall across from me a while ago. Totally not accessible, but I wasn't rude about it. I emailed them. I said, look, this is the situation. What can we do? And they literally emailed me back saying, I'm sorry, we're going to look into it. Mm-hmm. So there again, educating. I'm not going at it like in a forceful way. Because I mean, I don't want to blame them because they didn't build the store. But it's like, but they were listening to me and acknowledging, wait, this isn't right. We're going to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
And Danny, I remember that venue you canceled.
Yeah.
I was supposed to go too.
And anybody knows, I don't want to cancel gigs. Like, come on, venues.
No, you don't.
Get your stuff together. I don't want to cancel a gig.
I know. And do you remember? It was called the supermarket. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And we went, and there was about 3 or 4 steps. Yeah. You and the guys were so pissed but you carried us up the stairs.
Yeah.
And I love you guys for that. Because it's just like, wait a minute. Like, you were mad about it, but and I was just like, yeah, just go ahead. But yeah, so.
I do remember we were all very persistent. We were all very persistent and like,
yes, and
belligerently, like, you are not coming.
Yep. And you guys carried us up the stairs, and you guys were so mad. We're like, relax, it's gonna be okay. We're here.
No, it won't. No, it won't. It won't until they get it together.
Yep.
And how was the indoor space? Was that accessible?
Yes.
Yes.
Once we got inside, it was. Remember? It was just those few stairs, and then after we got in, we were totally fine.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Very.
That reminds me, I needed physiotherapy on my wrist once, and I went to a building called the Medical Arts Building. There was a flight of stairs, and the elevator was at the top. And I was like, how is that going to work? So luckily I was with my mom, and she went in, and they literally went, oh, it'll be difficult for her to get in here.
Right.
Yeah?
Wow.
So I had to go somewhere else. So I was just like, so whoever built the Medical Arts Building didn't have their head on straight.
Yeah. Or you say that again. I didn't.
Oh, sorry. So when I needed physiotherapy like a long time ago, So I went to a building, literally called the Medical Arts Building. There was a flight of stairs, but the elevator was at the top. So I was with my mom, luckily, and she went in and she thought, well, there must be another way. And they were like, oh, it's going to be really difficult for her to get in here then, with no like explanation, whatever. So then I had to go somewhere else because I'm like, so whoever built the Medical Arts Building didn't have their head on straight, because I was like, okay. So stuff like that is just, it's frustrating. But I mean, this was like years ago. It's better, but it's still like some people don't think about these things. So you gotta point them out. I mean, I just go to them and be like, look, this is the way it's, I shouldn't say it's not right. I mean, it's not right, but I go to it, I don't go and like just react. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I say my stuff and then I get a response back, and then if they work on it, cool. Yeah. I give people more credit for trying to be accessible. For the people other than some businesses, they're like, no, we don't want to do it. And it's like, well, why? Because I'm business. You'll lose other people's business. I mean, it's people in wheelchairs, it's people with strollers, it's people with walkers, everything, right? So it's like
people that we know.
Yeah.
Because we talk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we can spread the word. Like, hello. Yeah. So it's word of mouth, but it's like Danny said, it's educating people. It's not reacting in a really negative way, because then it's hostile. I don't want to be hostile. I really don't. But it's education. So yeah.
And it is, I feel like that idea of hostility is really hard too, because who was, I forget who I was chatting about it with the other day, but too often, and I feel like this is also not a little bit, it's absolutely ableist in terms of the moment you are even just like speaking your truth, saying what's up, you become like the angry disabled person. And it's like, no, I'm speaking what is truth. Like I can't go there. Like that's, how many times do I have to say it nicely before I'm just fed up and I start yelling?
Yep.
And it's really hard, because I feel like there's too many people that will look at that person that's now yelling and just see what's on the surface. And what's on the surface is them yelling. But what's beneath the surface? Like, why are you yelling? What's up? Why are you, what's wrong? What's wrong? Yeah. Tell me. Please tell me what's up, and tell me how I can maybe help. So I feel like we're not as say able-bodied people, we're not often enough getting to the root cause. And this could be any issue. We're not often enough as society getting to the root cause of issues. We're just like taking care of what's on the surface versus like, how is this systemically rooted in the way our world is built? And to change that, we need to find the root. And if we don't find the root, we're just going to continue to put dirt on a weed. And that weed will just continue to grow. And through this lens of ableism, I think that's absolutely an ableist thing, which is sad and so frustrating, because I've grown up with this idea of attitude is everything. My mom is like the sweetest person anybody's ever met. And she's always said, kindness always wins. And so I've always worked to be as kind as I can, as fun and loving as I can. But I can totally see why people get angry. People get upset, and people start to like rage. People, they stop wanting to be nice because they're not heard, because nobody's listening, because things aren't being considered to the level that they should be considered, because maybe these issues don't affect that person over there who is able-bodied like myself, and who doesn't have to think every day about the things that you guys need to think about, or other members of our SB&H community or disability community in general think about every day. And I think that's ableist in itself, that mindset of like, what's with the angry disabled person? It's like, no, that's not it. That person is a person, they're angry. Like, let's ask why.
Yeah. And I've also been criticized, when I'm being honest, I've been criticized as being negative. No, I'm
Right.
not. I'm trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
And I'm classified as being negative just by telling the truth about something. I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
I would. I wanna hear what you have to say. Now, Diva.
Hello.
Hi.
You all said everything I had to say, really.
Speaking of being angry.
Yeah, speaking of being angry, there was a time in my life, not so long ago, that I was called bitch on wheels.
Oh.
Yes.
Did you run them over?
A couple of them.
Yep.
And that was, well, first of all, I was very angry at the world, at everyone and everything, for a very good reason. One of those reasons were I wasn't heard. When there was a problem and I tried to explain, I was approached and seen as just angry disabled person, if even a person. So there's absolutely truth to what you're saying, Danny, that it's so easy for people to see the anger and just see that at not what caused it, not trying to understand what's behind it. Yeah, so you just classified as angry disabled person, and then other people that are disabled will be classified as that as well, and we just become a group of angry people that no one listens to, because why? But when it comes to how do we what we do about ableism, I don't think that you can remove it altogether. I don't see how that is possible, but it can definitely get better in that department, by talking to people and not just waiting for an invitation to be included, but to actually reach out as a person with a disability, and send an email to a place you want to go to, make that call, talk to people, ask for help, try to do what you can to make yourself heard without being aggressive and rolling over people.
Yeah.
At first.
Yeah, at first. Yeah. Conversation and have an open mind, and also think about your own ableism, because we all have it. I mean, I have it.
Yeah.
All of us have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we think about it? What do we think about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And are we open to see things in a different way?
Exactly.
We might not agree, but are are we open to take in another person or person's views, and like, and go like, okay, I hear what you're saying. Can we talk about this?
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love these conversations. Like we can just, I could talk forever about stuff like this.
Yeah.
Me too.
Also,
Eva, you should take you should own that bitch on wheels and make a t-shirt. Just turn it on. No, but like own it. Like I'm in a good way. You know what I'm trying to say? Like just take it back.
Oh, I did.
Yay.
That's what I called myself for a lot of years. Like, yeah, I am the bitch on wheels. Just like I'm the rolling diva now.
Yep.
yeah.
I can't believe people said that though. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of angry.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But I can definitely understand them. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I was about to say something else. And going back to owning your story, and does that feed ableism? It definitely can. That was what I was worried about before 2020. Definitely how me coming out with any details of my life would affect other people. Definitely people with disabilities, because I've so many times been in situations where someone looked at me and, for example, this happened last year. A lot of people at the gym started talking to me and noticing me and praise me. But a couple of those people did so in a not very nice way. Like there were a couple of coaches and trainers at that gym that had their own group that they worked with. One particular person was there with a group of guys, young guys between 17, 20. And he came up to me and started to tell me how wonderful it is that a person with disability trains so hard and seems so dedicated.
Oh.
And then started to complain to me that the group that he's working with are lazy. And he said something that made me explode. I think that I've screamed at this person so loudly that the whole gym heard me. And he said that he tells these young guys that he works with that he's supposed to coach and encourage and make better, that look at this girl over there. She's disabled and she's better than you.
Yeah.
So in my mind, and I might be wrong about this, but in my mind, what this person did, I hoped he stopped talking to me after this. I understand. I would too. But what he, and I told him this, what you actually are doing is you're taking my time, my dedication, my discipline, my whole dedication, my blood, sweat, and tears,
Yeah.
you turn it into a stick to beat other people with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How effing dare you?
Mhm.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. That's not cool.
no.
Yeah,
Not cool at all.
and maybe this is the core, or one of the cores in what ableism is. The view that if you're outside of the norm, which is a body that works
Mhm.
perfectly, or I don't know, that is the norm, and everything outside of that is wrong.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because Diva, I do think that's a prime example of sometimes things just have to be said. Like you couldn't have just like facilitated, especially in the moment. I couldn't see you facilitating that in like a nice way. Sometimes it just has to be like, no, that's not okay. Like that hurts. That you're doing that. Like don't weaponize me. Like
Yeah.
I'm a human doing human things. Absolutely, yeah, 100. There are just times where things have to be said, and it's sad when after something like that, like say that human in the gym couldn't like take a step back, reflect, and come back to you and be like, hey, I took a moment. I just want to say I'm sorry. Like, didn't even need to say anything after that. Didn't even need to continue a relationship. But I feel like, anyways, and please correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think that can go a long way in terms of I took a moment, I reflected, I appreciate you kind of giving me a bit more perspective, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I feel like that can go so far in terms of just as a human. I can't tell you the amount of times where I've messed up, unintentionally trying to do something good, and I completely missed the mark. Again, comes back to this idea of like intention versus impact. Like best intentions, not good impact. And that's happened, but it's not about what happens. It's about how you choose to learn through it and how you choose to come back to the conversation and say, listen, I messed up. You told me that, and I took some time to think about it, and I'm sorry. I just wanted to say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, and also the best way of I don't know, change is not only through your words, but actions.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Actually showing that you changed.
Yeah.
Actions speak louder, a lot louder than words. Every single time.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can listen to what you have to say, but show me.
Mm-hmm.
Show me.
Yeah.
Then I will believe you.
Also, I at least for me, I value people that work in inaccessible restaurant, for example, that actually says to me, I acknowledge that our restaurant is not physically accessible to you.
Mhm.
Is there any way I can help you? Is it okay if I help you inside?
Oh yeah.
100%.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I've literally had people come up to me and start pushing me without asking. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I'm good. Thank you, but I'm good. Like, at least ask me first. Now, I mean, I've had one person where they came up to push me, and part of me, and I kept saying, you know, I'm fine, thank you. They didn't listen to me. And then I was mad at myself kind of because I just shut down and I let them.
Mm.
And I was like, why did I do that? Like, I'm so good at saying, you know, I'm good, thank you. I even looked at this person and said, I am fine.
Mm.
But they didn't listen. They just kept looking straight. So I just shut down and I'm like, no, that shouldn't happen. I need to stand up for myself. So I was mad at the person for not listening to me, but I was mad at myself for not standing up for myself stronger, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But then maybe if you find yourself in a similar situation anytime in the future,
Yep.
then you can look back on that and maybe answer in a different way,
Yeah.
like more stop, no, or
Somebody told me, sorry.
no.
And I told somebody this because I was like, I had to talk it out. And they were like, if it happens next time, put your brakes on. And I was like, that makes total sense. Like, I never thought of just putting my brakes on. And then I was like, okay. Or like hold back really, really hard so they can't push, right? But, you know, sometimes it's intimidating because this person was larger. So maybe in a way I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let them do it, but I shouldn't do that. So next time I'll put my brakes on and just be like, no, I'm good.
Lexi, you should just completely mess with them. Put the brakes on, and they'll be trying to push, and you could just play it off like, "Oh yeah, I don't know what's wrong.
Yeah,
That's so strange.
I know, right?
My wheelchair, maybe it's broken.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. You can stop pushing me now. I'm gonna have to get my wheelchair fixed."
Yeah. See, but it's funny
And then
how
just
like
turn the brake off and go on your way.
yeah, but it's funny how like in so many other circumstances, like I'm so good at standing up for myself.
Yeah.
But in that one, I just was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I lost my voice, and I was like, that's why I was so mad at myself, right? But I think it goes to ableism too, because it's like you're taught kind of like, I mean, I was fortunate and I wasn't taught this, but people have been taught like they're weaker because they have a disability. No, we're strong, but we need to promote that too.
Yeah.
It's so. I actually, sorry, I just want to say the one thing that you said there, Alexis, the way, like what we're taught, it just made me think right away, like we're taught what we're taught and we're not taught what we're not taught.
Oh, I love that. Yep.
And I think it's so interesting because on one hand, that education, especially like for us, for folks that identify with living with a disability, that education is important, but then I think it's also interesting because I also agree with the anecdote of like, it's not necessarily our responsibility to educate you. It shouldn't
No.
necessarily always be our responsibility to educate you. If you do learn through us, incredible.
Yeah.
But it's really, really cool if people also like learn about things on their own as well, and
Yeah.
you know, start to identify some of these things on their own as well. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And I also,
Oh, yeah.
sorry. I'm also, I love when like you ask questions and you have a direct answer. Love it. I asked a question about, I was going somewhere and I said, are you accessible? They gave me a roundabout answer where right away I was like, no. But they don't want to say no to me. But I would rather you be honest with me than give me like the runaround.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. And that makes me think of the place where I have my reflexology studies now. I mean, once you get inside, that elevator is good, works perfect, no stairs whatsoever, everything works. But to get inside the building, there is either a very large staircase, which obviously it's very hard to push yourself up when you're in a wheelchair. There is an elevator next to it, which has been there for like, I don't know, forever and ever. Monday through Friday, no problems. I'm there like before 9. It's okay, it's working. But Saturday and Sunday, the effing escalator or elevator, sorry, is off.
Oh.
But only until the janitor starts work, which is at 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I start my studies at 9, so I want to be there before 9.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would think, and the school where I do my studies think that there shouldn't be a problem to when those weekends where when I'm there, can't you just turn it off like 2 hours before?
Yeah.
But then there is a very, very many middle-aged men. Sorry to.
Hey, I
mean, middle-aged man out, but this is the actual phone conversations I had with one of them. I start work at at 10 a.m. Then I can turn off the elevator. I'm like, skip to conversations with cleaning men who let me in another door, and I was like, thank you, at least someone works here before 10 a.m.
Oh my God.
His response was, well, I'm here at 5, so at 5 a.m. So for me, it's no problem. I'm like,
Oh my God.
Wow.
a very long story to say that I don't know. I
Can I just compliment though your middle-aged man voice? I really like your
Yeah,
your
that was so
middle-aged
good.
man voice. Really like that. I thought it was
Love
very
it.
accurate.
yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Really good. And you did like the arm up thing and the leg out, and I thought it was like you just need a beer in your hand, and then you're like,
Yeah.
I'll start work at 10. I start work at 10.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Mm.
And I'm like,
Perfect.
but it's not like I'm saying that every Saturday, every Sunday for the remainder of history, you have to make sure this elevator works. Just for these 9 weekends when I'm there, please.
Yeah.
I actually asked. I asked, so nice.
Yeah.
And you all know me. I'm quite nice. But after like I think it was weekend 3 or 4, I intentionally in a conversation said to a person, I'm effing going to sue the bastards.
Yes. Yes.
That's, oh my God.
Are in charge of this effing building.
Yeah. Yeah.
The day after, when I got to school, then one of the persons working in my school came up to me going, I heard you might thinking of suing. It's good because they did everything right. I mean, my school, they are not the ones in charge of the effing building.
Yeah.
And the effing building is in the middle of Stockholm, so it's quite it's quite a central place. I mean,
Yeah. Wow.
so I don't know where I wanted to go with this. I guess just putting it out there that
Yeah. Wow. So.
even though you're starting out of nice and loving and the top the top goes over.
Yeah.
Actually, to kind of, I guess maybe riff on that a little bit, but to go back, because I really like the point that Diva made a little while ago around everybody in some way, shape, or form having an ableist mindset in some way, shape, or form. And I thought it was really profound, and quite honestly, I'd never thought about it in that way before, but it could absolutely be very, very true about even just within, say, the community of disability. There are, ableist things that we could think that somebody with a different disability might go, well, are you sure? Or isn't that a little bit of a privilege check there? Because I live with this disability and it affects me in that way. So, like, cool, you live with a disability, it doesn't affect you. But isn't that a little bit of an just very, very interesting, and just even in terms of how ableism can even exist just within the disability community. Really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
It definitely exists.
Yeah.
Well,
Definitely.
Yeah.
And my sister caught me on this, and I love her for it. And I love her anyway, but I love her for this because I was somewhere and I had to wait for an elevator, and people that I thought didn't need it were on the elevator. And she goes, "How do you know they didn't need it?" And I was like, "I don't. I just assumed they don't need it. But people have invisible disabilities, right? They might not be able to use the stairs." So in a way, I was like, "Holy man!" So she put me in check. So now I think about that. I'm like, how do I know if they don't need it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there again, it's on me to be like, wait a minute, I don't know this. Why am I assuming that?
The same thing with bigger toilets. How do you know that the person walking out of that toilet doesn't see themselves as disabled or aren't disabled? Or special parking.
Yeah, 100%.
How do you know?
I was actually, I've had to check myself on that one, actually, because there's been a couple times where in my brain I see somebody park in disability parking and I see them get out of their car, and in the back of my brain I'm thinking, like, where's your sticker? Where, like, and then I'm also thinking, like, it's none of my damn business, like, Danny, like, it you don't know what's going on with them, and I mean, I don't necessarily have that thought process anymore. Like, if somebody's parking there, I just trust that they're parking there because they need to be parking there. But it, I definitely checked myself on disability parking before, in terms of, why is that person parking there? And it's like, well, Danny, you don't know, so just shut up.
Yeah. Just speaking of different disability, we for all have hydrocephalus, and you, Danny, are the only one not using a wheelchair. Do you see a difference there in how you're perceived? I don't know if that is
Yeah, I think it's interesting. At a conference, at a conference years ago, for spina bifida and hydrocephalus, I had a young person say it must be really hard for you, and I was kind of taken aback and said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Well, if somebody sees me in a wheelchair, people just assume that like I'm in a wheelchair. I'm the person that I am, but like." Nobody knows about your learning disability or how challenging it's actually been to learn how to like navigate your mobility challenge, like fine motor skills on the piano, stuff like that. So I think about some of those things sometimes, but I certainly have never personally known. I think quite honestly and historically, I've grown a lot. I'm still always learning, but I can reflect definitely on ways in which I used to function that were very ableist, that were not necessarily thinking about all of the different pieces and all of the different ways that make me just functioning how I want to function so easy. And so I know that has definitely been a learning process and trying to always implement in the best that I can, being anti-ableist, addressing things that aren't accessible when we're looking to partner with different people and or organizations, making sure that their core values align and that we're on the same page in terms of what we're doing and so that we're able to address those conversations and slowly break down those systems so that we can rebuild them, hopefully in a more accessible way and continue to have that conversation. Anyways, that's kind of the
Oh, I thought this was going to be a shorter conversation, but
It never is.
never
Ever.
I guess the conversation continues.
Yeah.
We will talk to you all next month, I guess, or maybe there
Maybe
comes
sooner.
out a bonus episode. Who knows? Who knows? Subscribe
Stay tuned.
so you will know what's going on. So nice chatting with you guys.
You as well. You as well. Stay
Everyone.
warm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stay warm.
everyone. Much love.
Much love.
Bye.
Peace. Bye.
Bye.